Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. We are bruised and not broken. I know it's been a while. It's kind of late. It's almost the end of the year. I've kind of been vacationing. I've kind of been recouping, spending time with my family. I've kind of been just trying to get my life together for this new year, and needing some well-deserved rest. Because, excuse me, of that. Rest is always a well-deserved and needed situation or thing. I am trying to find somewhere to put this, and I'm going to put it right there for now. But anyway, so I want to go into a word, which is Numbers chapter 9, I believe we're in. I took some time to, like I said, get it together, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of things. It is a time of great reflection. This time of the year, usually I myself am reflecting on my life, my journey up until this point. That would be past, present, and future. My year, as a whole in itself. What I want to do, for next year, what I have done, what I plan on doing, and things of that sort. I'm quite sure that I am not the only person that would be doing these things, especially around this time of the year. But I want to get into that because technically speaking, I know there's a lot going on, but we're going to get into it. I want to read the word and then we're going to get into it afterwards when we do some of the commentary. I hope all is well with everyone. I missed you guys. I hope you missed me as well. And I hope all is well with everyone in their families. So I'm going to get into Numbers chapter 9. And this is what it says. I'm going to read through it real quickly. And then we're going to move forward. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see me all that well. I might need a little bit more light because it is a little dark in here. And I don't want to look all that dark anyway. So, okay, yeah, I am kind of reflecting, but okay. Okay, so this is Numbers chapter 9, and it says, "And the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt. And he was saying to them, let the people of Israel keep the Passover at its appointed time." Remember, these times are very important, and we need to be keeping up with them and not with the world's timing. We discussed this before, but we're going to get into it more. Let the people of Israel keep the Passover at its appointed time on the 14th day of this month at twilight. You shall keep it at its appointed time, according to all its statutes and all its rules. You shall keep it. So Moses told the people of Israel that they should keep the Passover, and they kept the Passover in the first month on the 14th day of the month at twilight in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So the people of Israel did. And there were certain men who were unclean through touching a dead body, so they could not keep the Passover on that day because they were unclean, remember? And we had talked before about, the things that they would have to do, so we're going to see what's going to happen. And they came before Moses and Aaron, and on that day, and those men said to them, "We are unclean through touching a dead body." I'm trying to figure out why. Why are we kept from bringing the Lord's offering at its appointed time among the people of Israel? And Moses said to them, "Wait, that I may hear what the Lord will command concerning you." So he's waiting for one, telling them to wait. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel, saying, if any one of you or your descendants is unclean through touching a dead body or is on a long journey, he shall still keep the Passover to the Lord in the second month on the 14th day at twilight. They shall keep it, and they shall eat it with the unleavened bread and the bitter herbs, and they shall leave none of it until the morning, nor break any of its bones, according to all statute. For the Passover they shall keep it. But if anyone who is clean and is not on a journey fails to keep the Passover, that the person shall be cut off from his people, because he did not bring the Lord's offering at its appointed time, that man shall bear his sin." This is why this was so important. "And if a stranger," excuse me, sojourners among you, and you would keep the Passover to the Lord according to the statute of the Passover, and according to its rules, so shall he do, meaning the people that sojourn, meaning visitors, guests. You shall have one statute both for the sojourner and for the native. On the day that the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, and at evening it was over the tabernacle like the appearance of fire until morning. So it was always the cloud covered by day, remember, and the appearance of fire by night. And whenever the cloud lifted from over the tent, after that the people of Israel set out in the place where the cloud settled down. And there the people of Israel camped. And at the command of the Lord, the people of Israel set out. And the command of the Lord, they camped as long as the cloud rested over the tabernacle. They remained in the camp. Even when the cloud continued over the tabernacle many a days, the people of Israel kept the charge of the Lord and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was a few days over the tabernacle, and according to the command of the Lord, they remained in the camp, and they, according to the command of the Lord, they set out. And sometimes the cloud remained from evening until morning, and when the cloud lifted in the morning, they set out. Or if it continued for a day and night, when the cloud lifted, then they set out. Whether it was 2 days or a month or a longer time that the cloud continued over the tabernacle, abiding there, the people of Israel remained in camp and did not set out. But when it lifted, they set out. And at the command of the Lord, they camped. At the command of the Lord, they set out. And they kept the charge of the Lord at the command of the Lord by Moses. So we are looking at this. They were only allowed out when it wasn't, and remember, it was a day and night situation. You know, light by day was the cloud, and then the fire by night. So this chapter is concerning the great ordinance of the Passover, orders given for the observance of it and the return of the year. Now remember, we were talking about, because this is supposedly the new year, but it is not. Remember, we are in the world or Satan's kingdoms and systems. We're not being governed by God. So when we think about a lot of these things that we're celebrating, I had already discussed in a past videos, if you go through them, and we was discussing about what year is it really, what type of calendar is the original, which was the Hebrew, and it was on a different system. So because of that, although we celebrate these holidays, we got to remember these are pagan holidays. These holidays, including the days of the week, the months of the years, all of these things are based around their celebrations of pagan holidays. So me, myself, I have recently just stopped celebrating these times. Although these are times where people get together, because they are only times when we're allowed to, because during this, not only are we controlled monetarily, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually, we are controlled for the most part by the goings of this world. But this is what he means when he says be set apart and come out from among them, because we're not supposed to. And for as much as we can come out of the world, to do so. Why? Because it is not what God really wants. Because it is idolatry, it's worshiping of other gods. And this is what this is about. And he doesn't want us to worship other gods. This is an issue. It's considered disobedience. It's considered all kinds of things. And it comes with a lot, when it comes to blessings, cursings, and all these type of things. And we allow other things to come into our lives because of it. And the world is the way that it is because of it. So, orders given of observance of it, the return of the year, provisions added in regard to such should be ceremonial and clean, or otherwise disabled at the time when the Passover was to be kept. Also concerning the great favor of the pillar of the cloud, which was a guide to Israel through the wilderness. So this is what this is about, and this is when he was establishing them. And this was the somnolent, like the colonization or the governing of them, of how they are to live. And these are the observances that they were supposed to observe. And these do not include all of these pagan rituals and worship that we see with these holidays and all these other things. And this is another thing that is important. We're not on God's timing. We're not in his alignment. Why? We're mainly in the alignment of the world, which is of the kingdoms and systems of Satan, who's for the devil, which is the kingdoms and systems of darkness, which is not of God, of the light. Why? Because God does not want us to do these things. This is what this means. In order for solemnization of the Passover, remember there's certain ones. There's a Day of Atonement. There's a Passover. There's certain things that they're supposed. The rest days, there's certain days that they're supposed to do certain things. The days of the week is certain ways that they're supposed to perform their sacrifices. There's all of these things. There's the laws He's already given them in Exodus of what they can and cannot do as far as their families. All of these things, we have discussed these things, and we're going to get into it more. Now, it's a lot to cover. Honestly, I'm just going through and learning myself of what is, because there's so much to cover. We're just talking about the regular Bible. I've also learned as well all of these different texts, because I have different Bibles here and I have them set up, and I'm trying to, because the texts are different, and reading the Aramaic, or it is difficult, the translation. Remember, there's more than just the Bible. We have the Apocryphas, which were taken out, which we need to also look at. We need to look at the most original one, which is the Ethiopian Bible. We also, when you think about the Talmud, that is to be read, which I haven't yet, because it explains other things. But I found some disturbing things about that. The Kabbalah as well. Then you have the canons. When it talks about the language, the spelling, the spells, all of these things, the translations, there is a big difference, because even in the Ethiopian Bible, when I read, it does not say, hallowed be thy name in the Lord's Prayer. Hallowed be thy name, and to take the Lord name out. So when we think about these things and the text and how they translated them and how it went from being one thing to another, this is another thing. A lot. Whenever man or Satan gets in and tampers, he contaminates. So we have to be sifting. They talk about the years, what year it is. I've already told you this is not the year that they say it's not 2026. We went over that, like I said, and we find ourselves doing these things as culture, as tradition, passed down, but they're passed down because it's what they were taught, and also what they were taught from the beginning. And it doesn't matter how long it's been there or who it's from. If it's a lie, it's a lie. If it's not of God, it's just not of God. And when we look at these things, we see so much of this. And we see the rabbit hole. It's just like there's so much. Now, we know we're not going to be perfect. God is the only one who can perfect us. That's the sanctification of coming out from among them, of the purification process of being taken out of and set apart. So this is what this is about. Also, when it comes to, like I said, just living your life in general, because all of these things affect us in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's our jobs, whether it's our relationships with each other, our relationships with God, our relationships with each other. All of these things affect us. And one lie spoils the whole thing, because it's like once you get one thing as a lie and you base it off of that, it messes up everything else. And this is why, and I see people say, oh, well, it's not just this, it's not just that. But it is, because even the littlest, simplest thing, if God says he doesn't want us to do it, this is what it is. But then we have to also distinguish if it's something God said, if it's Satan, we have to sift, because you see, they talk about this being the year of, they so-called the year of the snake, right? We're shedding and all this. But if we're not going by the years and the information, how can that be? Also, they talk about next year being the year of the horse. And then we see the traditions, like the superstitions of cleaning your home, cooking certain foods, especially in Black neighborhoods, Black family and cultures. The superstitions of it all, where we're doing all these things because they're customary, but in all actuality, are these because they passed down from ancestors, but who are the ancestors and what have they been doing? Where is the proximity? What is going on? Where do we see the patterns of thoughts, the habits, the cycles that need to be broken? Why? Because these things that we have been doing are ritualistic. And are they actually helping us to cook, clean, do certain things, with the collard greens and the black eyed peas and all this? We have been doing these things for such a long time as a ritual. as a superstition, as a belief system. To believe that something different is going to happen this year, that, in our lives or whatever. But when we look down the line, where do we see the changes really of what is actually going on? Or are we seeing the same thoughts, habits, patterns, and cycles over and over again because we're consistent? We haven't looked at it. We're not seeing what they call the, what is it called? The patterns, the probabilities of failure, or you see what I'm saying? Because after a while, when you look at the patterns, if you don't see anything wrong with the systems and the patterns, then you're not going to get it. But once you start looking and seeing the patterns, the systems, the habits, the thought patterns, the habits, the cycles, you're going to see that it's repeating. So if they're not good ones, then they need to be broken. If they're ones that are, keeping you in bondage, keeping you in chain, keeping you shackled, keeping you bound, because everyone thinks that this is all about money and all. It's about way more than that, because where is our spirit? Where is our, all of this other stuff that is so much more, when it comes to that, so. But people think because of culture and because of money or fame and popularity, because that says it's good, that that's what it is. And this is what the world is going by. But that's the world culture and systems. But when we break that down and we look at it, where has all of that gotten us up until now? Especially, and I'm going to say for Black people, because when we look at what they worship, what they idolize, what they adore, what they put more money, power, fame, everything into people, places, and things that don't know them, don't care about them, don't mean them, no good. They will leave God, sacrifice God for everything else. And then we will argue down about ancestors, about demons, demonic forces, all of these other things. We would totally dismiss it. But anything that these human people, places, and things that give us, we'll worship that, we'll adore it, we'll give our life for it, we'll just, we're diehards when it comes to these things. But the question is why? And when I look at it, this would be the witchcraft, the spell, magic, or the illusion, delusion, the fantasy, the non-reality, deception of it. When you think about Adam and Eve in the garden and how she was tricked and deceived and fooled, this is what we're talking about. So I'm not asking people to be perfect, but what I'm asking them to do is take a look at it. And as I myself, I'm taking a look at my own life, and I'm looking at all of these things that are going on in my life, past, present, and future, moving forward, meaning past and present up to where I'm at now and where I want to go in the future, whether it's my family, whether it's myself, whether it's the world, whether it's, doing whatever it is, my part, in the world for God. It's like, and it gets to be a lot, that's why I have to get to myself and ask God to help me with my own stuff and my own every day-to-day situations, because when I look at a lot of things that have gone on this year in my own life, I'm thankful. It is not the day, because actually April is, that's what they call April Fools, April 1st, would be the new year. Because I've said this before, that December 25th was not Jesus' birthday. If you look that up, it's so much evil, wicked, pagan, ritualistic stuff, the Easter Bunny, everything. And so when we look at these things and we take them apart and we see what is really going on, but see, people will know the truth and question it more than the lie, because the lie is sweet. It sounds wonderful. The truth is ugly, and they don't want to see it, because that means they will have to change and do something different, or what they've been living is a lie. And that is fine, because we can be wrong about things. We only know what we know when we know it. And so just moving forward in that is fine. We would have to ask God for repentance, ask Him to help us, and to move forward. And that will be that. So when we're looking at all of these things, like I said, even myself, when I look at, how the superstitions of, whether it's being in church for watch night, all of these things was ancestrally, culturally passed down to us. And this is the things that we have been living by, swearing by our whole lives. These are the vows. These are the altars, covenants, and contracts, the vows that we have been keeping and just passing down. But are they giving us blessings and or curses, or a mixture of the two? So now when he's talking about the Passover and celebrating these things, These are the things we should be celebrating and during the right times, because seed, time, and harvest, they bring forth patterns, thoughts, habits, patterns, and cycles that will bring to us whatever it is God has for us. You see what I'm saying? We will be in alignment. But because most of the time we're off, we're not in alignment, these are the issues we're having, because you see how they stopped and then they moved in alignment. Protection, provision, all of these things in alignment. But to be out of alignment is to be over there, and you can work all you want to over there. If you're not in God's timing and his alignment, what you're doing is not going to work. That's just like God telling us he wants us to do certain things, but we give him everything else but what he asked us for. This is how this goes. Even in our relationships, a lot of the times people will give you everything but what you asked and wanted. And then when you're not happy with it because they give you what they want you to have instead of what you asked for, then it's a problem, because maybe what they wanted or required, it takes more effort. And because you're not as that invested, you're not about to be bothered. So this is just how that is going. And I'm thinking about all of the things that's going on, from them, us being on the brink of war, from them going over there to fight, amongst. But when we think about God's timing in the Bible and how these things are actually lining up, and we're seeing them, don't we think we might want to be on God's timing or in his protection, divine order, divine? And this is where I find myself really sitting down saying, okay, this is where we are, and I really need to get into alignment with you to know where it is you want me to go, what you want me to do. So I'm not going to necessarily be celebrating these holidays, meaning as far as, no, my reverence will not be that anymore. Do I like to spend time with my family? Yes. Is that the only time we may have? Yes. May I cook and visit? Yes. But am I trying to actually ritualistically celebrate these things? No, I am not. Renouncing them, denouncing them, and changing is what I need to be doing, which is what I'm in the process of doing, so that I don't continue with the same things, because he tells us to separate and come from among them. We're not supposed to be friends with the world. We're supposed, those who love the world or whatever is not, is at odds with God, and that's what it says. God gave particular orders for keeping of these Passovers and different things. Otherwise, it should seem that they would not have kept it. For in the first institution of the ordinance, it was appointed to be kept, and when they should come into the land of promise, and the Passover till they came to Canaan. This was early indication of abolishing the ceremonial institutions at last, that so soon after they were first appointed, some of them were suffered to lie asleep for so many years, and the ordinance of the Lord's Supper, which came in the room of the Passover, was not thus intermitted or set aside in the first days of the Christian church, though those were the days of greater difficulty and distress than Israel knew in the wilderness. Nay, in the times of persecution, the Lord's Supper was celebrated more frequently than afterwards. This goes to show what happens, to us, because once they were delivered, they went off and did their own thing. They forgot about God, as we could see time and time again. And because of these things, they were allowed to have the desires of their heart, what they wanted. But what they wanted was destroying them. It was destroying them, because the choices they were making was to have other gods. And because they wanted these other things, and they wanted the world, and they wanted Satan, they wanted the eye, the pride of life, the lust of the eye, and lust of the flesh. They wanted these things, and because they wanted them, they turned from God. And because of that, God allowed them to have what they wanted, but then they also had to suffer the consequences for whatever it was that they got themselves into. And this is reminding me once again of children, disobedient children. When you tell them not to do things, they go out into the world, they grow up, they want to tell you what to do. Same thing. God continue to deliver them, continue to love them, but when they got into things, the rod of correction, when it happens, when things come and they happen to you, you have to, because at what point do you grow up and start seeing the habits, or your thoughts? Because it starts as a thought, then it becomes, a habit, and then it becomes a cycle, a pattern, and then a cycle. So when we start seeing these things, we start understanding. So, but they wanted these other things because it was so much easier, so much enticing. And, the flesh or sin is much enticing. It is, indulgence. It is a part of us, this flesh, that wants what it wants, when it wants it, how it wants it, whether it be drinking, smoking, hanging, partying, whether it be fornicating, whether it be having all this money, defrauding people, whatever it is, that we are just so wrapped up in, because everyone has their own vices. And whether it's, being, famous, whether it's, being rich or having attention, or it could be anything. Everyone has their own vices. And we're not going to compare, because there can be different things to different people. Some people are better at other things, or they're more, that's what their gifts, that's what their talents, that's what whatever. But then there's also the good and the bad sides, the strengths and the weaknesses of them. And we all have them. So, and that's in Christ. That's, well, I would say people call themselves Christians. Jesus didn't die to make Christians or churches. He died so that we have salvation, so that we will become believers, so that we will follow him. Not to sit in churches, not to have a whole bunch of synagogues, not to be like the Sanhedrin, not to be like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. We were supposed to walk and move like Christ. Now, that takes a lot. We talked about the chosen ones. We talked about the apostles. We talked about those who walked and talked specifically with Jesus, his close inner circle. We've talked about all of these things and what those entailed and what their lives look like. We see them in the Bible. It was not such an easy situation for those who did, associate, walk, follow after Christ. Their lives, were forever changed. And yes, he says, take up your cross to follow me. So for a lot of people looking at the lives of people, and it's not to say that everyone who has money is cursed and everyone it's not to say it like that. It's to say who has Jesus will be blessed, or who has Jesus, not to say will be blessed, will have salvation. And it's not to say you're better than, but you're better off, because in the long run, you know where your soul will be going. And you'll have the protection, the cloud, in the day and the fire by night. Let me see. But we have to just be mindful. I don't know if I should go into it. We're just going to go through a brief remembrance and guidance of the Passover. Remember, everything has a seed time harvest. It's timing. And this is what this is about, timing. This takes place in the first month of the second year after Israel left Egypt. So that's when this takes place. Remember, timing is everything. Command to keep Passover. God tells Moses that Israel must keep the Passover at his appointed time, not before, not after, on the 14th day at twilight. Follow all the statutes and ordinances. This is what this is about. Problem: some men are unclean. Certain men had become ceremonial unclean because of a dead body, so they couldn't participate in the Passover on the appointed day. God's provision, he still provides. Ram in the bush all the time. Second Passover, God gives compassionate solutions. Those who are unclean or on a long journey may keep Passover 1 month later on the 14th day of the second month, but they must keep it with the same rules and reverence. This is sometimes called Pesach Sheni, a powerful symbol of second chances in God's covenant. Warning: anyone who is clean and not traveling but refuses to keep Passover is cut off from the people. That was what he was discussing. The cloud and the fire. This section is one of the most beautiful descriptions of God's guidance in the wilderness. The cloud is by day and the fire is by night, as we discussed. The cloud covers the tabernacle from the day, and it is set up, and at night it appears as fire, signaling God's presence and protection. How Israel knew when to move, meaning in life, how do you know when, where, how to maneuver? You don't want to just be moving and doing things. You want to strategically be doing things within the alignment of who? The Creator, the one who made you. Why? Because without him, you're just doing things. You're just busy. You're not making... You can make one move and it could change your entire life if it's in God. You can make one move, it could change it for the bad or the good on either end if you're not. So this is what this is about. When the cloud lifted, Israel set out, and when the cloud settled, Israel camped, meaning outright. Whether the cloud stayed 2 days, a month, or a year, they waited. They waited for God until he moved, until he told them to, do whatever. Key theme, Israel's journey was not based on convenience. It was not. It was preferences. It was predictability. It was based entirely on God's timing. So all of those things went out the window. Convenience, preference, and predictability, because God was on his own timing. But that's how the sheep would know to follow the shepherd wherever he's going and to do whatever he tells them to do. It's a trust thing. So no matter what is going on in your life, to still trust in God, have faith and hope in God that he is still going to do whatever it is he's going to do. We may not know, the predictability. It may not be, a right away thing or tomorrow or next week. No, it's a faith thing. We may not know, it may not be convenient. He may drop bombs and throw monkey wrenches in your plans. This is how this goes. But obedience is better than sacrifice. Obedience is Israel's learning to follow God's commands. Grace is God provides a second Passover for those who are unable to participate. Grace and mercy, presence, the cloud and the fire show God dwelling with his people. Guidance, Israel moves only when God moves, right? An image of spiritual dependence, like the codependency upon him. So, hold on, and I wanted to discuss, like I said, more about so we're going to look deeper. Passover as a memory, identity, and mercy. God's telling Israel to keep the Passover in the wilderness. That alone is striking. Why is it important? Passover, the story that made them a people. They're not in the promised land yet. They're in a place of transition, meaning uncertainty and dependence. And we find ourselves in these places a lot, like the end of the year, the beginning of the next year, the end of one journey, the starting of a new one, whether it's your job, whether it's a relationship, your friends, your family, your children, your spouses, you're moving, your job, whatever. It could be whatever. But transition is uncertainty. You don't know, something has ended and something you're in the middle has not yet started yet. So this is where the faith and the dependence is. Yet God tells them, remember who you are even here when you're not hearing his voice. There's times we don't hear God. We're not sure. We have too many, voices, and we need to sit down and we need to see who's who, the sifting, I would say. When I say sift, you know how you put something in this is the sifting. You want to keep what you know, what you have, hold on to that. And whatever you don't, let it go until you can get some confirmation from God, because you don't want to just be moving uncertainly. Second Passover is Pesach Chanel. Okay. God tells them, remember who you are even when you're here in this place. Okay. Second Passover, Pesach Shani. This is one most compassionate laws in the Torah. It teaches God does not want anyone excluded from his table. Ritual purity matters, but mercy makes room. A second chance is built into the structure of worship. Spirituality is a picture of redemption extended, restoration offered, and God meeting people where they are. This is why we have to be careful, because wherever we are in our walks, we're not here, we're not there, we're in the middle. Why? Because pride, ego would tell us we're better than someone because we're up here in certain areas and they're down here. But then also God will show us in that journey, but you're still not there, and there's other people that are there. This is why when it comes to competition, people, how they look and what they have and what their gifts and talents are and what they don't. Everyone has their own gifts and talents. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. No one should be in competition. Everyone should be working on their own thing at their own time. This is what this is about. God has specific purposes for everyone in his own time, for their own life, their own purpose, their own assignment, their own reason for being here. And they were born and fit for that and that alone, and no one else can do that but them. This is what this is about. That's why all the destiny swaps and the stars being stolen. People can try to mimic you and do things, but they're not you, and they will never be you, so they can never do what you do the way you do it. And that's just that. We're all going to do the job, but we won't do it the same way. We're not the same people. We don't have the same mindset, the same gift, the same talent, the same movements, the same thought patterns. We don't. We're different. And we're not supposed to be alike. That's why when you see everyone trying to change their bodies and do this and do that, we're not supposed to look all like a clone, like the same big lips and the same big old butt. If God wanted you to be that way, he would have made you that way. So because he likes variety, he's different versions. We are an extension of him. So many versions of us out here. The extension goes to, this one is looking like this, where you're light, you're dark, your eyes, you're this, you're that, your weight, whatever it is. And this is why we should be acknowledging instead of tearing each other down. We should be, respecting one another, our gifts, our talents, who we are as people, our character, and not trying to belittle, put each other down, make a mockery of each other, destroy each other. That's not what we're here for. Where am I at? If you missed it the first time, you're not forgotten, so you can still, come back to God. You can still reconcile. It's not a right away thing, meaning salvation you will receive. But walking it out, it's a process, a purification process. And you're going to have to fight. The cloud and the fire is the God's presence as a living guide. Covering, protection, shade in the desert, and God's nearness. This is what the cloud by day represents, and the fire by night represents illumination, warmth, vigilance. God's watching over them, and together they form the 24/7 symbol of I am with you, and I will show you the way. The rhythm, movement, and waiting and walking. There is where the chapter becomes deeply spiritual. Israel moves only when the cloud moves. Israel stops only when the cloud stops. They move when God moves. They stop when God stops. When he said rest, when he said move, when he said left, when he said right. This is what this is about. What this teaches, meaning time. God's timing is not predictable. Sometimes he moves quickly. Sometimes he keeps you in a place for 2-3 days, a month, a year. That's the delay, stagnation we think, but it's not. The spiritual life is not about speed. It's about alignment. Obedience is not just doing what God says. It's moving when he says move. Symbolic and spiritual layers. Here's where the chapter connects to the themes we've been exploring. Footsteps and journeys. Everyone has a footstep, a journey, a rhythm, a pattern with God. Their own hands represent action and obedience. Israel's hands stay until God signals movement. You can have cars, which is direction, momentum, vehicles, your life. Feet are conditions, meaning they represent movement, direction, readiness. Everything in our lives is speaking about stuff, even including if you have sickness and disease, you can look them up and see its spiritual meaning behind it. We're going to get into all of this because we need to look at these things. And the more that I learn myself and I'm sharing and helping with others, I want them to see, hear, and know. You've been exploring the spiritual meaning of the foot issues, right? Feet represent movement, direction, and readiness. If your feet, okay. Transition, waiting periods, the strain of carrying weight, the need for guidance and rest sometimes when you're having issues with your feet, with your back, with your head. You got to look these things up because there could be a natural, but then there's also a spiritual thing behind it. God cares about your journey as much as the destination. In the heart of this chapter is God gives second chances. He stays close to his people and he leads them step by step, not ahead of them, not behind them, but with them. Okay, also, okay, I'm gonna get into the calendar. Which I told you before that this calendar that we have says 2026 is what we'll be going into. But as I specified before, according to the Hebrew Jewish calendar, the current year is not 2026. It is 5,786. This is confirmed by multiple sources showing the late 2025 corresponding to Tevet, which is 5786. So that is the year. The Hebrew calendar year changes on Rosh Hashanah, which falls in September or early October on the Gregorian calendar. Remember, so that's the opposite of what we should be. Rosh Hashanah is 5,786, began in fall of 2025. We are currently in 5,786. Quick notes about Hebrew calendar. It is a lunar solar based calendar, both on moon and the sun. Months begin with the new moon. Leap years add on extra month, Adar, to keep the festivals aligned with the seasons. The year count traditionally begins from the creation of the world according to Jewish chronology. The Hebrew month is today. How to convert? Okay. Yes. And beginning. Okay, so I asked it a few things because I want to know. So they base it off of their astronomy and agriculture. So we're going to walk through this calendar. It breaks it down to when the biblical year begins, how the months are determined, how the days are counted, how the seasons are anchored, which biblical events define the structure. So when does the biblical year begin? The biblical year gives a specific starting point. This month shall be for you the beginning of months. That was in Exodus 12:2. It refers to the Nisan, the month of the Exodus. If you go back, I did a actual video of this when I was doing Exodus. So it's Exodus 12:2, the Nisan, the month of Exodus. So basically the year begins in the spring, which I said before, around March to April. That's in there. This is called Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first day of Nisan. Why? Because it is spring. Why? Because spring represents what? New life, redemption, and the beginning of Israel's identity as a nation. So these are the times we should be celebrating, not the ones we are actually celebrating, which are the pagan, because they are on the Gregorian calendar, which changed the months, the dates, the years. They gave us Sunday as the Sabbath instead of Saturday, which it is. They switched and changed everything as if they are God. Who did? The popes, and who else? The kings and queens who ruled the place. Exactly. So we're living off there. And why is that? Based off their satanic Luciferian stuff. And also because of the money and all the other stuff. But it is witchcraft, spell work, sorcery. When we look into all of these things, why? Because it is lies. It is illusion, deception. It is the opposite of the order of the Creator. Why? Because they are taking that into their own hands. They are becoming God, telling us when we're how to live and what to do according to their own stuff instead of what God told us to do. This is why when you think about this stuff, it's all off. It's all off. How are the months determined? The biblical months are lunar. A month begins when the new moon. Each month is 29 and 30 days. The new moon was originally confirmed by witnesses in Jerusalem. The Sanhedrin would declare the month is sanctified. Remember the Sanhedrin? Opposite of Christ. Pharisees, Sadducees, also opposite of Christ. So, the 12 biblical months, Nisan, Iyar or Liar, Sivan, Tammuz, Avi, Elu, Tishrei, Sheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shevet, Adar, and the leap years add Adar too. So how are the days counted? I need to know what those mean. Genesis 1, and there was evening and there was morning. So evening, beginning of the day, morning, continuation, sunset, next day begins. This is why Shabbat begins Friday at sunset and the festivals begin at sunset. How our seasons determine the Hebrew calendar is lunar solar months follow the moon, but seasons follow the sun. Spring is Aviv. Biblically, the year must begin in Aviv, the season of ripening barley. This is commanded, observe the month of Aviv, Deuteronomy 16:1. So the calendar must In short, Passover always falls in spring. First fruits aligns with the barley harvest. Shavuot aligns with the wheat harvest. Sukkot aligns with the fruit harvest. How do they keep the seasons aligned? By adding a leap month, Adar 2, 7 times every 19 years. Biblical events that anchor the calendar. Nisan 14, meaning Passover, the defining event of Israel's identity. Nisan 15 through 21st, unleavened bread, connected to the Exodus. Nisan 16, first fruits, beginning of the barley harvest. Sivan 6, Shavuot, giving of the Torah, wheat harvest. Tishrei 1, Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, civil year begins, spiritual reflection. Tishrei 10, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. Tishrei 15 through 21 is Sukkot, final harvest, dwelling with God. Tishrei 22, Shemini Ezra, sacred assembly. Why the Hebrew calendar is unique? It is the only ancient calendar that uses the moon for months, uses the sun for seasons, and uses agriculture for timing, uses biblical events as anchors, and uses God's commands as the governing structure. It's not just a calendar, it is a spiritual rhythm which we are to follow. Why? Because if not, we're out of alignment. The crops, the everything, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do because we're out of alignment with God and how He originally has it going. So how can you argue and fight with the Creator about His creation, meaning us and everything in the world? In one sentence, the biblical year begins in spring, which is Nisan. Months follow the moon. Days begin at sunset. Seasons follow the harvest cycles, and the entire structure is anchored to the Exodus and God's appointed times. If you want, we can also explain biblical calendar differs from modern. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay, I need to know that because we're going to get more into this. This is why we're going to take everything we've been building and lay out the entire biblical calendar system in one clear structure, spiritually rich explanation. This will give us a full picture of when the biblical year begins, how months work, how days work, how seasons are determined, and the biblical events that anchor the whole system. See how beautifully everything fits together. The beginning of the biblical year begins with spring. This is commanded directly. This month shall you do for the beginning of the months, Exodus 12:2. This is referring to Nisan, the month of the Exodus. Why spring? Because spring is the season of Aviv, ripening barley, the season of redemption, the season of when Israel became a nation. So the biblical year begins around March to April, right? 2, how biblical months work. Months begin with the new moon. Okay, I just did all of that. Okay, sunset, the day begins. The night, first half. Morning, second half. Next sunset, next day. This is why Shabbat begins Friday. Okay. How seasons determine ripening of barley. Passover is always in the spring. First fruits and lines. Okay. Okay, I think I just did this. I think it just gave me all of this again. I'm sorry. Okay, unleavened bread is the Exodus, beginning of barley. That's Nisan. Okay. Shavuot, giving of the Torah, wheat harvest. Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, civil year begins, right? Day of Atonement, final harvest dwelling, sacred assembly. So these are the things that God wants us to actually, ritualistically speaking, worship, which is the Yom Kippur, Yom Teruah, Sukkot, Shemini, Azeret, Shavuot, first fruits, unleavened bread, Passover. These are the things we're supposed to be celebrating. Instead of what we are celebrating. And when it comes to prophecy and everything else, this is where we're going to find out what's what, because Jesus said it, for those who want to have an ear to hear, let them hear. For those who want to see, why? Because not everybody wants to know the truth. Not everybody wants to hear and see and know. And what he's talking about is not things that are of this world, but they are things that are out of this world, meaning outside of just what we see here and know. So because of those reasons, we have to pay close attention, because it's more than just about what we see. He's talking about the spiritual realm and the kingdoms and the systems of God, which are the ones we do not see, but are the ones that are most important, because those are the ones that actually govern everything that's here. Why? Because because you are more than just a body. You are a spirit. And without your spirit, your body is just an actual vessel, or they call it an avatar. I wouldn't really say that, but it's just a vehicle. So when we think about that, this is to get us where we're going and to do what we need to do. That's why our hands, our feet, our journey to movement, action, movement, you see? And we're supposed to be moving, doing God's work here on earth. This is and following what he's called us and told us to do, using our gifts, using our talents, for him and for his kingdom, and to, do what pleases him. This is what we were made for, to worship, to be obedient, to have a relationship with God. Jesus is his son. There's no other way. The way, the truth, the light is through him. So we must go through Jesus in order to get there. Every other way is not the way. He is the only way. And when we look at these things, whether we like them, agree with them or not, they make a whole lot of sense. Like I said before, people would rather have the lie that is sweet and kiss with words that they want to hear, of things they like and want to hear, instead of things that are harsh and rough at times, but is food for your soul because you need it. So we must chew the meat and spit out the bones. What we need is what we need, and what we don't need is what we don't need. And we don't need to be a babe drinking, an adult drinking milk. We have to eventually grow up, and we have to be able to, eat the meat and, grow in, God. We can't remain a babe forever. We can't remain a teenager. We must become adults eventually. We must grow up. We must always be moving forward, always be growing. Just like, here on earth, where people want to move up the ladder in the corporate, and they keep going back to school and keep learning. This is a learning process, and God will show us throughout our lives, throughout whatever it is we're supposed to be here doing, or whatever he wants us to do here. We think it's all about us and what we want. No, it is not. God's agenda is not our agenda. He may allow us to have some things here that we want, right? But technically speaking, I can tell you just myself personally, his agenda is not our agenda. It's not about what you look like and what you have and people get so caught up in that. You can argue or have conversations or disagreements about what people look like, what people have on, how much money, how much education, always, if they're black, white, if they're woman or man. All of these things that really are not that important. But the things that are really important, like stuff like this, people don't want to even have a conversation about. It's like, I had posted some stuff on TikTok, and I didn't even realize that the little, whatever was on there was some bad, stuff. And you be scrolling and you don't pay it no mind, because when you take a picture, I'll go on there to just upload a verse or something. And I would hear something playing, but I would never think in a million years that it would actually post with what I'm posting, because I didn't put it for it to post. I don't know how that happened, so I had to apologize. But I got so much likes and comments on it, and I'm like, well, how, when it was something that was derogatory, but the things that I would post that was good would barely get anything. And I was like, but this is the world we live in. And the sad part about that is you can't. And I'm so glad that, I went through all the things that I've gone through, even though I didn't like them and didn't want to, with how I am, what I look like, being this, because I've never been the one to be on anyone's top list of anything, and that's fine. But it's just, knowing that God is here, he got me here, and he's using me for what his purpose is. And it's not about that, because he loves me and he wants a relationship with me, and I'm, regardless to people, and regardless to all of that, and regardless of my mess ups and my, insecurities or my hang-ups or whatever it is, that people would see in or outside of me that is good or bad or whatever they want to call something honorable or not, or they think they should give me a certain level of respect, depending on where I am in life, because there's no respect. God doesn't have any respect as a person. And he's going to treat you according to your character, according to your relationship with him, all these type of things. I sit here and I go through so much. And like I said, even just that, because if it was something that I wanted them to clap, they wouldn't. But I can't base my life on that, because Christ rode in on the donkey and they were Hosanna in him one week, that weekend. And then the next weekend, they hung him on the cross. You see what I'm saying? So I cannot get caught up in people, places, and things. And that's the reason, because one minute they will love you and the next minute they will hate you. And you got to understand that Hatred is probably more whenever you're going against the grain, whenever you're here to do whatever. It's just, you're not going to be like, Christ wasn't liked, everyone was against him. You had a few followers that did love him, but the rest of them, they was just like, when you think of the world and what's going on in it, and you're the one that's saying, oh no, get married, or oh no, fornication, or oh no, this is what it's going to come with. It's going to come with a lot of this, crap that it comes with, basically. And so I do have to de-stress. I do have to rest. I do have to take time out for myself and God, for my own trials and tribulations that I'm going throughout my own life, because I'm not perfect. I'm here to share, to help grow and do whatever with whomever, for whatever. I'm healing daily. I'm trying to grow daily. I go through issues. God has to get me. I have my ups, my downs, and not just like everybody else in my walk, in my personal life, in my life with my children, with my job, just like everyone else. I'm a human being here. I'm a believer. I'm following Christ, but I'm having an experience here that is not always the most wonderfulest, but it's not always the worst. So I'm getting both at the same time, some good stuff, some not so good stuff, but it's going to work for my good anyway, because God said it's going to work for my good, all of it. He's going to use all of it. Whether I see it or know it now or not, whether I like it, whether it's uncomfortable, it just is what it is. So, like I said, make sure you guys start, because even when I looked in my Ethiopian Bible, which I have up here, like I said, I saw how some of the words are different, and they talk about words being spells and who wrote the Bible, all this other stuff. And these are all things we need to be looking up and investigating. As I investigate and I'm learning and I'm getting, I am sharing what I'm learning and what I'm knowing. There's going to be a twist with things this year. I'm trying to do some things differently. I do want to be a blessing to people, but and God has told me this, for me to pour and not be poured back into. I can't listen. I'm not the one to sit here and be like, oh, well, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. If I've ever been, I have over 300 something videos. I've been on here almost 2 years. I'm not here to make money, don't get me wrong, because that's not what it's about. But if I have ever been a blessing to you, be a blessing as well to myself and my family. You can hit me up on my Cash App. It's $ Tabitha Rocker. It's T-A, capital T, then it's A-B-A-T-H-A. Hold on, I'll just show you, because I believe it's in my bio. When you look down in there, you'll see it says, I got the glory, and it's down there. And I'll just show you just quickly. But anyway, I want to do more. I want to do more for God. I want to do more for, it's not about me. It can be a blessing to me and my family, but it's not all about me. It's about helping others. It's about being able to be in a place where I'm financially stable myself. God blesses us to be blessings to each other. And even liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing to because I've even found that people have had issues with that. My own family and friends is like, some of them are, but then everything that they would be doing, they would want me to be, latching on to promote or whatever their stuff. And it's like, but there has to be some reciprocation, because God is teaching me in this time not to cast my pearls onto swine, meaning not to continue to pour. And, even Jesus himself, when he went in certain places and they didn't receive him, he would leave. If he got somewhere where they were not going to receive him preaching and teaching and trying to heal, he would not. And usually they talk about the prophet or the not being accepted with their own people, which is so true, within their own households, their own family, their own closest ones. Jesus was not able to do stuff from where he came from, Nazareth or Bethlehem, I forget. But, well, both of them. Born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth, the Nazarene, right? So it's like going there and people not believing in him, not having the faith, call him the carpet son, disrespecting him, the son of Joseph, all these different things, instead of the Messiah, the one and true Son of God, the one who was sent. And this is, what it is. Now, I tell people all the time, I wonder if Jesus was to walk the earth, if we were to miss him, because we would think he would be coming one way and he actually would not be. And when we look at these people, places, and things, the packaging will be wrong for us. So we would miss our blessing. We would miss salvation. We would miss everything that he would come to bring us because we would be looking for something else. And instead of, seeing, God can work and use any and everybody, no matter where they are in life. You can even learn a lot from a dummy, I would say. But, for people to just totally disregard or to, not take it seriously. But it's fine because he talks about these things, and he says what's first will be last, what's last will be first. And, he doesn't want the greatest and the best. He just wants those who are willing. He will change you because you can't change yourself. We were all born into this world with this nasty flesh, and we were all born here sinners. So no one, and that's the grace and the mercy of being in the middle. You're not up here, you're not below there, because you got people that are up here and below there. You're in the middle. So you can never consider yourself to be such great and such less, because we are all sinners. And it took Christ's blood to save us all, because we could not save ourselves. We could not be wonderful, purified, any of these things on our own, by our own merit, by our own mind, our own thoughts, our actions. And it's like God is showing me, you're not saved because of you and what you do. You're saved because Christ gave his life for me. So I'm going to fall. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to learn. I'm going to go through things. And I have to know and rest in his grace, because I don't want to mess up. But then that's a part of it. And failure and a lot of these things paralyze us and grip us and have us backwards, stagnated, not moving forward in our lives for so many reasons. And, whether it's our own thoughts and actions, whether it's our own or one's inherited to us, whether it's in our bloodline, or whether it's, witchcraft, or it's, Satan just after us, and we're just, whether it's a trial, a tribulation, whether it's a test, whether it's, disobedience, correction, whatever it is, to be learning and to be paying attention to what is going on in our lives. So that's where I am with it. And I'm just sharing that because not everything is just black and white. We think that it is, and it's not always just one way or the other. We could be thinking, oh, well, it's this way, and that could be somewhere else. Why? Because our ways are not his ways, and our thoughts are not his thoughts. So we have to just, and this is why I'm like, Lord, if it walks like a duck, it look like the quack like a duck, and it's a duck. But he's like, yeah, but no. Because he can do what he want to do, when he want to do it. And he can use whatever he want to use, whatever he want to do. It's like, it's something else. But anyway, we are bruised and not broken. We are living and we are learning. We are doing this together, and it is a journey. And I'm looking forward, although this is not the new year, because I really want to celebrate the new year when it's the real new year. And I'm trying to align my own life with God and what he has going on. So I'm searching and I'm asking questions and I want answers. And sometimes I get them, or I get a no, or wait, or not right now, or something. It's just, and I have to just deal with it. And sometimes I don't like it, and it's not the answer I want to hear, and it just is what it is, though. So, like I said, I'm going to end this one. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can look at my link in my bio. Like I said, you can donate to me. It doesn't have to be nothing extensive. Anything is accepted, is a blessing. I do try to be blessing to others. I don't like to put what I do necessarily, because God says what you do in secret, he will reward you openly. So when you're, being a blessing to someone, if you're in that position to be, you don't necessarily want to broadcast it. But I just do that anyway. So it really, whether it's people who gave to me or not. So if I'm going to be a blessing, if I'm going to help or do something, and I always tell people this as well, before you throw your clothes away, give them to people, find people, whatever it is. It could be your own clothes. Now, they talk about witchcraft, you can wash it, and there's ways of doing that. But yeah. And then outside of that, it's just certain things that if you can be a blessing, But then allow God to put it on your heart, because there's some people He wants you to be a blessing to, and He'll send you when you're in the line. And then there's people He tells you not to cast your pearls before swine, meaning because some people, whether they're in judgment, whether He's dealing with them, whether they're whatever in rebellious, whether they're demonic or worshippers of Satan. I mean, don't get me wrong, sunrise sets on us all, but there is things that He has in place where, it's like, listen, He doesn't expect me to waste my time, money, energy, and effort in things that only He can do, because I can't save people. I can't force people to change or to love me or to do things differently. Only He can do that. And everyone has free will. And that includes with each other and with God. We have free will. So we have a right to make and choose whatever it is, whomever it is, whatever it is we want. And this is what God allows us to do. This is why you see a lot of what goes on, because we do have free will. And He gives us that, and He allows us to have that, to make our own choices. So at the end of the day, it's not about us saying, well, no, whatever we chose, it's what we chose. And, excuse me, if it lined up with God, if it didn't, depending on, because sometimes God allows things to go left. You think it's because of a reason, to show you something, to let you see how people are in your life, or, to protect you from things. So but we got to be paying attention in order to see it, hear it, know it, understand it. And then if it's not, He'll bring it back and you'll see something different later on, meaning the real meaning of it was all about. So it is what it is, but I'll tell you to fast and pray and to do what needs to be done. Although it's not the end of the year, I do have certain things in place that I'm going to do just for myself, so that I know what to do for myself, because I still have to live here. And I still have to pay bills, and I still have to do certain things. So it's like, you still have to live in this world, but you don't have to be of it. But anyway, I love you guys. Be blessed. I been enjoying my time off and getting some rest. And, this year I'm looking for new things, looking for God to bless and do whatever He's going to do with my life in new ways, for myself, for my family, for my job, for whomever He wants, whatever it is He wants me to be doing, my hands, my feet, my body, my everything. And there's some things that still needs to be taken out, and there's some things that need to be filtered out or cleansed or changed. And it's a process. I'm still a work in progress, and we all are at all times. There's still hurt. There's still, forgiveness of me from others. There's still different things that I'm dealing with as well. Healing, deliverance, and restoration is always an ongoing thing, in our lives. I tell people that all the time. So anyway, like I said, I love you guys. We are bruised and not broken. And they say it's going to be 2026. I know that it's only 5,786, but... And until April, I would say officially April 1st. Then I would say, okay, this is the real new year. But anyway, searching for the real information. Don't want to be in the dark. So many people, places, and things said so much. You don't know. You have to research and look it up for yourself. And it can be a lot. And then more than anything, what you want to do is, because man, can deceive. But you have to ask the Lord Himself and the Holy Spirit to help you and guide you. And whatever you're seeing, hearing, and knowing, for Him to show you what's true, what's not. And just to have your own relationship with Him for yourself. So I love you guys. Enjoy. I don't know if I'm going to do any more videos tomorrow or not. I'm not really sure. But, like I said, I see people doing their ritualistic stuff, their superstitious stuff. They did the black eyed peas and the cleaning up the house and the this. Listen. If it really made that much of a difference, all of these years in our lives, how much have it really made? Or how much does it make? And is it really, whatever it is so what are we really believing? What are we really worshiping? What are we really doing? And that's, and is it what God wants us to do? And are we aligned on what He wants us to do? Or are we doing what we want to do and what the world wants us to do? Or the way the world has things, because the culture and all of this stuff will have us doing all these things, remember, that are not of God. And we would think that was your biblical thing, profile of the world, the culture and what they say, the smoking weed, the hanging out, the party, oh, grab a bag, all this, culturistic stuff that is here. And people will follow those things to the guidelines like that is their Bible, that is what they must do. Their life is not going to, even when it comes to relationships and being with people, being alone, being married, all of these things, being black, being white, being a male, being a woman, all these other things. But what did God say about it? So like I said, I love you. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I don't know if I'm going to do anything else yet. We'll see. But anyway, love you guys. Later.